Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about Severance, Season 2, Episode 8, Sweet Vitriol. So we get this first episode back with Harmony, which is awesome. I'm sure everybody feels this way, but I missed her a lot. This week we finally ended up in Salt's Neck after them kind of alluding to it earlier in the season. Harmony's hometown, we get to hear about her upbringing and her relationships, and even the fact that she invented Severance, which is crazy. Really changes everything and changes the context for what comes next and what Harmony's motivations might be and where everything's headed. Salt's Neck totally reminds me of a Rust Belt in the U.S., a Pennsylvania, like a mining town where the mining company up and moved out, and now it's just a bunch of people without work. Salt's Neck is totally a Lumon town through and through. Lumon left. It's people resent Lumon. People are addicted to drugs, all the things that when you lose your livelihood will often happen. As we learn about the town, we're simultaneously learning about Harmony's history and how she grew up there. It's where she worked in a Lumon factory. Her aunt still lives there. She's a hardcore Lumonite, her mom not being a Lumonite. And her story of how she died and how Harmony wasn't there for it. We're really filling in Harmony's backstory. It's crazy because we knew almost nothing about Harmony, and now we know not everything, but we know a lot more. So it turns out the reason she's such a zealot for Lumon, despite this separation in their relationship, this big rift that's forming between Harmony and Lumon, is that she was a child laborer. At least as young as 8 years old, although that's just when she's talking about the last time she got high on ether. So she probably, started working there when she was 4 or 5, 6, who knows. But it made me think about Lumon, and I just really like how all the lore, all the backstory about Lumon is kind of in that turn of the century period. So it kind of makes sense that when child labor was at its height, after the Industrial Revolution, after the Civil War, probably late 1800s or so. I just really like how it kind of fills the lore, and it's just really interesting that time period. Even though Harmony, probably would have been the 60s or the 70s, that she was that young working in the factory. It's kind of interesting how everything that surrounds Lumon in the past kind of has that turn of the century feel, that late 1800s kind of vibe to it, even though it was, 60, 70, 80 years later that Harmony's referring to. I also found it kind of funny that this town has cell service. Later in the episode, throughout the episode, Harmony's getting calls from Devin, and she finally answers it at the end of the episode. But everywhere she goes in this town, doesn't matter how far in the middle of nowhere this is, a town like this would be so disconnected from everything else. There's no reason to have cell service there. No, I don't think anyone uses a cell phone besides Harmony. When Harmony gets to her aunt's house, I thought it was funny how you get more of that Lumonite language. On the wall, there's a plaque for Sissy, and it says quarterly striver. There's so many phrases and terms and stuff that Lumon language, you know what I'm talking about. You just see it all throughout the show, and every time I see stuff like this, I just kind of giggle to myself because it's so funny. It's just the way they phrase everything. It's so bizarre and culty, and it's hilarious. We also found out that Drummond has already visited Sissy's. And the fact that Drummond's already visited means they know there's something Harmony would go back for. I don't think they necessarily already know about the notebook, but maybe even if they don't know about the notebook, maybe they know that there could be something there that Harmony would go back to get, some kind of evidence that she could use to break the illusion of Jane Egan being the inventor of Severance, and all is perfect in Lumon world, and just even the way Sissy reacts when she tries to burn the notebook. It's almost like her worldview broke for a minute and she didn't know what else to do. She had to consider all the things I've done, all the things I've believed. If this one lie could be true, what else have I lived my life in service of that isn't actually true? I can imagine how someone who's in a cult, someone who's brainwashed like that, they don't even know how to react when they see this kind of damning evidence, right? And then so she tries to burn it. So yeah, I'm not really sure if Drummond knows about the notebook specifically, but maybe the company thinks there's some kind of evidence there that could cause some kind of irreparable harm to the company. Also, when Sissy says, Mr. Egan saw Kier in you, I wonder if that's alluding to something more. Maybe she could have just been referring to that she's going to be great and she saw Kier's greatness in her. Or it could be something kind of more direct, that she's saying, oh, she saw the lineage in you. We still don't know who Harmony's dad is. Maybe she is an Egan. Maybe she's an Egan bastard or something like that. And so when Sissy says that, it might be literal. And also, one of my favorite scenes when Harmony's at Sissy's house and she's in the room where her mom lived and died, where she was sick. And when she lays on the bed, they have that beautiful warm light coming through the window. And they do this amazing kind of transition, showing the passing of time. I think Jessica Lee Gagne was the director of photography on this episode too. So, we've already seen how masterful she is as a DP. And it was just a cool transition to show that passing of time. It's subtle, and they don't have to just do a hard cut and the light's in a different place, which could have been effective too, but I don't know. I love when it oozes style like that. As a film nerd, as a videographer, I love that kind of stuff. It's so cool. And then when Hampton shows back up, we, get to see their relationship kind of bloom again, and over huffing ether. She's like, you want to get high? And then so they huff their ether, and Harmony says, oh man, I haven't done that since I was 8 years old. And it's like, there's so much wrong with that sentence. They do their huffing, they do their kissing, and they kind of bring that relationship back together again. And she had referred to earlier in the episode how he was, his resentments and, the fact that she got to join the Wintertide program, the fellowship, and move on and do something with her life, get out of the town, kind of a familiar story we've heard before, right? And so that resentment that he has, it's not really for her. He kind of projects it onto her, but it's more about what's left in that town, what he's left with, right? And I can imagine how resentful that makes somebody. This person got to leave. He didn't. He has nothing there. He just deals ether and works, serves coffee at this cafe. But yeah, we definitely get to see that kind of lost relationship there. It's funny. I don't know if this was intentional, but it reminded me a lot of The Notebook and the story. There's the girl that was well-to-do and falls in love with the lowly poor guy, and then she moves on with her life, and he stays there in the small town, and they kind of reconnect later in life. And yeah, there's a lot of parallels there to The Notebook, which kind of made me laugh to myself. Then we kind of get to the climax of the episode, and Harmony goes into the cellar. She finds what she was looking for, her notebook with all of her Severance designs, all those documents, the blueprints for it all, which is kind of funny because we know Jaime Egan took credit for everything she came up with, everything she invented, and she ended up as some middle manager on the severed floor, right? But the fact that he took credit for all that stuff, and the fact that she hid the notebook with all of her designs in the bust, the head of Jaime Egan, I thought that was creative. I liked that a lot, kind of metaphorically and literally. The designs are in his head, even though they came from her, but she hid them in there. I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, not only did we find out that Harmony came up with all this stuff, which makes her so important, but also that Jane took credit for it all. And I guess Harmony let it happen because she was so indoctrinated, she was so deep into the cult, such a Lumonite, that she kind of just let it happen. And now that the company's wronged her in this major way, at least she feels that it's time to set things right for her, by her. Now she's disillusioned from the whole thing, as many people who leave cults are. And she's, fighting for the credit she deserves, maybe to get back into Lumon's good graces, maybe, we don't even know who knows. Like when she talks earlier in the season, I think it's episode 2 or 3, when, Harmony gets spooked and walks away from Helena, and Helena says that line to her about how, oh, you overestimate your contributions to this company or something like that. And does Helena know? Does she know that? You'd imagine she probably does. She's high up, but at the same time, often it seems like Helena's kind of just a face and doesn't have that much power at the company. So yeah, Harmony hits the road. She finally answers Devon's call, and we kind of get this reconnection between the A plot and this B plot that we had going in this episode. And seems like Harmony's, switching sides for now, at least. I imagine it's not going to go the way we think. We even had there's this teaser footage that's been going out throughout the season. One of the shots was, there was a few that were from this episode, but then there was this one shot of Harmony standing in a cabin, and I had assumed it would be from whatever the Harmony episode ended up being, but that wasn't here. So I think that might be, Devin had suggested, oh, what if we went to the Innie cabin, the severed cabin, where so they could talk to Innie Mark and they don't have to continue reintegration because it's been such a nightmare, dangerous for Mark. And we imagine she's heading back to them to help out in some way or another. Hopefully, it could go the other way. We don't know. But that shot made it look like that cabin she was in. So I think next week we can imagine that Harmony will come together with Devin and Mark, and probably at that cabin, at the severed cabin. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, is Harmony switching sides for real? Like, it's hard to say. It seems like it. She doesn't have much back at Lumon at this point. I mean, she even seemed to think that Helena and the company would kill her to keep her quiet. So yeah, I think that's probably a great place to leave it for today. I really liked this episode, not quite as much as episode 7, but it was still good. So thanks for tuning in. I'm going to be doing a lot more of this stuff. Severance is like my favorite TV show ever, so I'm having a lot of fun breaking stuff down like this, and I know your time's valuable, so I appreciate you guys spending it with me. I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.